What's up, YouTube?
What's up, YouTube?
Welcome to another episode of Creativity
Unsheathed.
I'm Oliver Siegler.
And I'm Nino.
And yes, we are brothers.
Yep.
And this is the show where we feel that creativity
Can be found anywhere in the world.
and that part of the world, we're going to look into MangASIA. And I found this book at our local bookstore, Green Apple bookstore here in San Francisco. So if you're ever here in the local area of San Francisco, look them up. Great bookstore from everything to your booklicious needs. And here we're diving into parts of Asia where you can see Bangladesh all the way through Japan to the Philippines, Mongolia, Thailand, and Taiwan. It's like we're going to look through the timeline of not all the countries, but today we're just going to look at the Philippines. I mean, just to see that there's a lot of activity going on there in the Philippines. But then of course Japan, being the mecca of all manga, it's like they're going to be the most active, country when it comes down to making comics. So manga at a glance, you just see this timeline of how comics was being made in Japan. And from where it started in 1798, 1814 to One Punch Man of 2012. But if you go the years before that, you can see Akira right there.
1982.
Right.
Wow.
And then One Piece in the mix along with Attack of the Titans. This is where the popularity is getting higher and higher.
A lot more cosplayers.
Right. And to the point where the comic shop are holding more manga now.
Yeah.
And they're beating out American comics. That's crazy as far as what people want.
Story-wise, and yeah. That's more digestible and accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like you get to see all the there's different types of manga. You can get golf manga to painting, disability manga, and then you get the occasional the popular superheroes. And then Junji Ito being part of this the horror genre now. It's a popular horror mangaka.
Yeah, the go-to guy for horror.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. Right. We got a couple of those. We'll get into maybe later.
But it's just seeing all the different types of manga that gets produced.
But they got even
Disability.
preventing manga, disability manga, crafting manga, food manga.
Parenting manga, right? You said parenting manga?
Yeah, dude, so you can tell any story.
That's pretty
Basically it, right?
Yeah.
Tell any story you want.
And maybe that's why the popularity of manga is it's not always just superheroes.
Yeah. People here get burnt out from that.
And then look, American comics before that, they were doing before superheroes. What were their big hits? You get the crime, romance, horror, westerns, and it's now when
war stories.
Yeah, it's you didn't see a lot of slice of life. Maybe that's where the romance comes in. It's crazy to see all these types and why American comics can't do this. I mean, maybe this is a thing where American comic artists should be thinking about,
right?
Not just what's popular or what's gonna do in a TV show or I can get a movie deal or something. It's do a comic that you want to do, tell a story that you want to do, and if manga in Japan is showing that, it's I think American comics is really missing out on something.
And it's there's nothing wrong with it being independent. That way you can tell any story, not being held by editors and whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's maybe with something with Marvel and DC, it's really hard for them to transition to that thing. I don't know, trying to do more slice of life or I mean, I don't even know where the next stage is for American comics and superheroes.
It's like they're trying anything at this point.
Right, but it's like it doesn't seem like it doesn't resonate with the fans that are already there. You know, and it's like it's like everyone's saying the same thing. We just want good stories. We want good stories. And you know, I too, I want a good story. I don't care what kind of genre it will be. You know, I just want to be told a good story. And
something that's worth, more than one read.
yeah, you know, something that's worth putting on your shelf that you can pull out again and reread. So yeah, we're gonna just jump to the points where it says, it talks about the Philippines, and of course here in mapping out MangASIA. It says like in 1946 publication, Philippines publication of
Alaga Comics.
first comic magazine coincides with the Treaty of Manila. The development of comics in Asia, manga is dominant both in terms of its cultural influence and extraordinary sales figures. And the genre origin is traced back to the 17th, 19th century that we look back at the timeline. And it's from woodblock prints to contemporary paper, pen and paper,
right? And paintbrushes.
Yeah. Comics in the Philippines dated back to 1886, and Monkey and the Toy by Jose Rizal. I think that's gonna come up soon.
Well, here's 1814, man. It's really cool to me. Comics been around that long.
Right? I mean, granted, this is what you consider a zine today, with just words or your thoughts of the day. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then with little pictures, but you're expressing your thoughts, right? And then with minimal photo or drawing, to help complement the writing. So right here we got the 1929 Platinum Comics as the industry emerged in the Philippines, where you get two kinds: editorial and entertainment type of comics. And the first entertainment comic that you had was this character called Kenkoy. So he was created by Romello Ramos and Antonio Velasquez. So it was their version of who can say a comparison in American comics?
Archie?
No. There was another a comic strip type character. I don't know, maybe a Dilbert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those characters, comic strips,
a Marmaduke,
Beetle Bailey.
Yeah, all those comedy humor strips. It was that was Philippines version with Kenkoy. So this is right here, Filipino Comics 346, featuring the story Double Trouble, but it's spelled Double Trouble. It was created by Mars Ravello and Elpido Torres, and came out of Ace Comics, Philippines, 1960. The highly prolific, writer, illustrator Mars Ravello, 10 years at Ace Comics. Began in 1949 and earned the celebrated King of Comics, one of the highest paid graphic novelists of his time. He also created the superhero Darna.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, comics icon in the Philippines. So these guys, the protagonists are conjoined twins, it looks, right? So,
yeah. Drawn together, huh?
Yeah, they're giving the strip its name as they face a threat of separation. It's like that's one of their stories. It's I guess conflicts of.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's kind of stuck on the movie.
Is that Matt Damon?
Matt Damon, yeah. Eva Mendes.
I didn't watch that movie. It's I remember the trailer, but.
I think it was the Fairley Brothers too.
Oh, they made that movie?
Uh-huh.
So that's pretty cool cover. The Halahak Comics.
Halaka, yeah. Halaka Cup.
So like this issue.
Issue number 9. It's issue 9.
It's pretty cool that you got this all archived still.
Yeah.
And you still get to see it today.
Fable and folklore.
Also, yeah, this is the section talks about
The writer.
Budget 10 and the artist Kajul Balasimo. It's like they're the creators of Trece, which now is the Netflix show. But you know they released it as a graphic novel first.
This is them.
Yeah, creator owned. Yeah, so it's pretty cool, you know that. And it's in the show is in manga style, so
Nice.
it has that anime style to it. I mean, the artist is too. Bellissimo's style is like Kajo's style. Really like emulates that manga-esque, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, in Trece they touch upon like all the horror and folklore.
The Philippines.
In Philippines, yeah.
The Filipino myth.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Alright, so you get the Tigbalang, where it's half man, half horse, or head of the horse, man of a body. So it's kind of like the Greek Minotaur. Then you get the Aswang.
It's almost like Better Ray Bill.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, Marvel. Oh yeah.
In Thor.
Yes. Oh, yeah, mid. So yeah, the whole Greek mythology is like
myth, right?
Right. It's like, so kind of makes you wonder the connection between Greek mythology and Filipino mythology. You know. It's like maybe like a version of Aswang to them. It's like a siren or
or just a vampire. You know
Right.
what I mean? Or the Jersey Devil maybe.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Alamat Comics.
Or it's like Aswang. That's another name, right? Like Manananggal.
Manananggal.
It's like
Swans.
it's like where the torso, like she leaves it somewhere.
Yeah.
And then like she goes, her other torso flies around some like to feed,
Mhm.
right? Where she feeds on
Baby fetuses.
yeah,
Through the window.
pregnant women, right?
Yeah, so that's why the superstition don't sleep by the window.
Oh, okay. So it makes total sense now. Gangambindo.
Mm.
I mean, there's a superhero like Superman, like Spider-Man, Gagamboy.
Gagamba, yeah.
It's like totally the Filipino version parody of Spider-Man.
Ooh.
That's pretty gnarly looking. It almost has that like MTV
Skateboard art.
underground art.
Yeah. That's totally cool.
Whoa. Man, it's cool that this was being produced in the Philippines.
Right? It's like they know it's demanding.
It's like yeah.
Suck that in, guys. It's pretty cool. Tampok na kwento. Success. Ang tunay na fantasya. Ang masa.
So these came out in 1992. So it's like probably like their Philippines version of like Easy Comics,
Yeah.
Weird Science,
Horror.
Vault of Horror. Because I mean that's what they touched upon in those stories. So right here you get Space Horror 253 by Larry Santiago, by Graphics Arc Services Incorporated, and then you get World of Fairies #6.
Imagine finding this at a Comic Con, in a booth like long box. You go
Man,
find these. Man,
that'd be cool.
Freaking awesome, man. Recreating and revising the past.
So, like in this section, we're gonna go into the history of the Philippines and how it got controlled and colonized by Spanish and the Japanese, and like how they used the emotions of suppression and captivity. They put it in the comics. They put it in the art to kind of bring awareness.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's like, it's pretty much political comics at its finest.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's like it's not being too political, but it's like you do see the racial bigotry in the drawings that Francisco Cochin and Federico like Habanal would draw in their books, just to kind of state their thought and their commentary on what's going on around that time, you know, in their country, you know. So it's like all that time they're trying to like regain independency. And because it's crazy, like in 1898, like the Philippines was controlled by Spain, which got passed to the United States. And in 1942 to 45, like the Empire of Japan occupies the Philippines. And it's like newspapers are suppressed under Japan's propaganda, and it's like,
wow. That is what that year they bombed Hiroshima. Got bombed, right?
right,
And then the next year they got their independence.
1946. It's like, and then just seeing how all that stuff within history ties into the comics that gets made, you know, like that ripple effect,
Right,
you know,
right.
of war and colonization, and
As if like the comics were there as a way of documenting what's going on
from another perspective.
from a perspective.
Yeah.
With you can tell the story freely, I guess.
Right.
Free
You can
speech.
Right. You can do it through humor or through serious tone, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I would see it in like political comics in a newspaper today.
yeah, like what Alan Moore did with Watchmen,
Right. Yeah.
Or what
V for Vendetta.
yeah, and you know, kind of what and you know, Aunt DeCindy talks, you know, has her political thoughts, but you know, she doesn't have agenda behind it. You know, she like goes about it a little differently compared to other writers, where it's just like constant like dialogue after dialogue, page after page. It's like, okay, this is a little
Political views and all that.
a little too much.
Filipino comics. Suicide Susie.
Created by Mars Ravello in 1962.
Yeah, Pedro Noli.
So they during that time they used the Japanese wartime occupation as their backdrop. So it's like all their slice of life during that time as a civilian or as Suicide Susie. I mean, I'm kind of really curious just what that story's about. You know?
It's like, you wonder if like, as they're making these comics, they didn't even care about the money. They didn't even think about it, right? They just wanted to tell the story, like
Knowing, just seeing how they got mistreated and with unfair wages and whatnot. And it's
like their diary, journal keeping.
and he's like, well, you can imagine like the tensions and like the relationships between like Japan and Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like with mixed emotions all over the place. Just so much mixed energy. Like you don't know. You're raised one way, but then now you gotta stop that and learn a new way.
Because now,
Like because we're here. We're meeting.
yeah. Like now you have to conform to what we're doing, or how we're running things.
because just because of their controlled presence, it's like that they striking that fear. Like during this time, like they had popular American comics published until like approved Filipino comics could replace them. Some strips encourage Filipinos to like learn Japanese or Nippongo, as they say, as they go about it.
Mm-hmm.
And after the liberation in 1945, fictional stories reflected the wartime. So you have a Japanese army gunning down Philippine faithfulists.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're at a church, and just
like a massacre.
just doing a massacre, and in this comics they're just reflecting that time. Like it makes you wonder if this really happened.
Like just what happened.
As they were going through their making their comics, of course they were drawing Japanese in a stereotypical way. But maybe that's just the anger built up with all the tension, with the occupancy of Japan. But I mean, other than the stereotyping, Francisco Cochin and Habanal, they had a Japanese friend, like who they considered a brethren, and he was a sergeant, a Japanese sergeant named Komura, and he was murdered by a Filipino traitor and informant for the Japanese. They later killed by American hero. So it's like, yeah, you did have that coexistence between Filipinos or Philippines and Japanese.
Right.
But then of course you had some people fed with a different agenda, and to do certain things that they do.
For sure. It's like those who side with certain, they get those kind of treatments and don't comply,
Right, so it's like, Francisco and Habanal, like they're probably they wanted to make comics and probably just bring awareness, not so much hate, just wanting to show like, we can make this work, like let's stop being dicks,
Just checking in, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like our ancestors.
Right? Like this what our Lolo's read. Or Lola and Lolos. It's almost look like Mr. Miracle.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right? Mr. Miracle logo.
There are definitely comics now by Filipino creators that they're putting out with, diving into the Filipino history. So we're hitting that stage of
The 50th. Yeah.
So you get like comics superheroine Darna appears in Filipino comics in 1950. In 1970, Mars Rebello creates RAR Publishing.
RAR, RAR, Publishing House. And then in 2000, comic magazine Culture Crash is published in the Philippines.
So the artwork is it's obviously Japanese inspired, but the stories are distinctly Filipino. So going back to Trece, Cujo he's taking the popular style of manga,
Incorporating it with our Filipino stories.
Yeah, so that's it just makes it relatable for a worldwide audience.
Especially the stories that are telling with myths and creatures.
Yeah, I mean,
so you kind of need that extra animation, maybe, or that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, because I feel like animation in Japan is a lot more fluid, and compared to American animation, you can see the stagnation and the limitations of just the fluidity of cartooning. It's like it seems like it's still stuck in its old ways of three-dimensional.
Oh yeah,
And as far as manga and anime, it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of things moving, you know.
Yeah.
It's like
It kind of pushes that, like, yeah.
it just adds a little bit more spice and edge to when you watch your cartoons, you know. And you know, like Pokemon, for example, when that became a hit in the U.S., it's like the cartooning was a whole lot different than what you were seeing on Fox Kids or Kids WB,
Right.
Nickelodeon. It's just like there's something about Pokemon and just the super hyper expressive, you know, facial expressions. It just was a totally different breath of fresh air of cartooning.
Yeah, a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like manga has always been there, but as far like on a popularity scale, Pokemon like really brought that, you know.
So as far as like facial expression, it's almost like Tex Avery's facial animation with those
Yeah, totally.
hyper expressive facial expressions.
Yeah, like a more updated version of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So
And now we got the manga Japanese version of their animation.
the one everyone's using, yeah. So, I mean, it's just really cool to see that birth and that connection of cartooning, you know.
Yeah, sharing each other's ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It looks like a Green Hornet esque.
Or the shadow.
Or there's the
Right?
shadow.
Yeah, like the shadow-esque.
Pretty cool.
So it was like, you know, it probably is a shadow influence because they were getting American comics in the Philippines. So that's why you have a Darna that's like a Shazam / Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Wonder Woman.
You know, Superman. So it's like they got that influence from American comics. And how Gagamboy, like I already mentioned, like was like a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, this is actually Elpido Torres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Oh, LP. Planeta X.
So now we're in the multimedia of MangASIA. There was a point in time where they only had the color red in their comics because that's the only color they could afford, or you know, that was only given to them in their printing house.
Wow.
It just really adds a cool effect.
This is they're really doing movie adaptation, 19th movie adaptation, comic book. So like they're already doing stuff like that, or yeah, vice versa. They turned the comic into a movie adaptation.
Wow, so okay, so they were like they're ahead of the game as far as like storytelling.
Yeah, they did that with Darna, right? I'm Darna, right? Filipino Wonder Woman.
Yeah, where she has to eat a pebble.
Yeah.
Right, and then she screams the word Darna.
So like they're already they're doing what's ahead of their time. You know what I mean? Now they're redoing it using today's, CGI programs and stuff.
Right, just trying to get in the mix of that popularity of themes.
Oh wow, nice black and white.
These are pages from Darna and the Hawk Woman, Mars Rebello and Nesta Redondo from Filipino Comics number 109.
Oh, what year?
1951.
Wow. They got inspired to make Hawk Girl
Oh.
in DC. Hawkman and then Hawk Girl, but then instead of doing Hawk Girl, they did Hawkman first, just so they can make a Hawk Girl.
1951, huh?
So it's right, and if they came in the wave.
Or maybe we should look up the publishing dates.
Right. Classics. That's good.
The Tagalog classics.
Bam Bam Bum. Yeah. If you like comics and you're bored and you don't care about the money, just make one.
Man, you really see the Filipino and like that Spanish influence.
Yeah. That's cool. Oh, nice. You see the whiteout. That's cool.
So I wonder if those are.
It's old, man. Or comics. Dude, they turned this into a movie.
Did they? I never watched it.
Filipino, a long time ago, but I was a kid, but kind of looks like Mum Ra.
Oh. That's why it's Zuma. So this is Zaza Saturna. She is like the influence on Mars Ravello's Darna, but you know she's she's respected in her own right. Like she's her own character.
Carlos Vergara. He self-published this comic in 2002, and then it got picked up for a National Book Award in 2003, and then was turned into a movie in 2006 of the same title.
Zaza Saturna.
So it's like he brought it back to light, and then it got picked up.
Yeah, so I mean it's a homosexual character. So he's a gay beautician, and then he swallows like an alien pebble or rock. So similar to Darna,
Right.
but then it says a different word and it turns into Zaza. So he's really the first like LGBTQ type character.
Yeah.
You know, before even like being a thing. It's like so it's up there, you know, with North Star and you know Apollo and Midnighter. It's like you know gay characters coming out. It's like that's totally cool. And then like more are coming out.
Yeah,
You know?
which is totally cool.
Yeah, it's like you know it's like I really don't mind those stories. Just give me a good story.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for sure. I'll read anything, you know,
Yeah.
give anything a try.
Yeah, and like this, knowing this was like a self-published success, like that's awesome.
Or like for even like someone to even tackle a character like that,
Right.
and still made it that popular.
Right? You know, similar to Banksy, you know, he had the guts to, you know, put something out. You
Right.
know?
And look, it got movie released in 2006. That was way before the woke movement. Like, you know, that was still cool.
Like it was okay to put out, like without any
Agenda or
you know,
reason behind it, right?
Yeah.
They're just telling the story.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, I'm curious now. I want to watch it. Like,
Yeah.
how does it go about it?
Because I mean, there were already conflicts, you know, dealing with you know the hatred towards you know the homosexual community, and it's like you know that's you know, it's still relatable, you know, then and before the times before that, and yeah, granted now today, you know, just every for the LGBT community coming full stride, you know, it's like we have to embrace coexistence, you know. So it's like this being the first, it's really cool.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like others around the world have characters as well. Same.
It's like at the end of the day, we all bleed the same color.
Yeah. Everyone just wants to be entertained. Tell a good story.
So that's MangASIA at a glimpse. Like we dived into the Philippines first, but then like look how thick of a book this is, and
We will dive back into
yeah, no, for sure. And like there's
Yeah.
like we want to see every perspective that every country had. You know, I want to know what you know Taiwan was thinking, what kind of comics they're making. Indonesia, and it's like
Korea, yeah.
you know, like I really wonder how, you know, like Japan really got the ball rolling, and you know, we'll definitely look into that. But you know, we just wanted to highlight, you know, the Philippines, and you know, just
And granted, like each of these, you know, countries and villages, they have their own myth and lores as well. It's like
with
almost the same with different depictions.
yeah, same different depictions, but it has that same foundation,
Yeah.
you know, of you know, passing down the storytelling of a lore. And yeah, it's like, you know, we didn't want to spoil like this whole book for y'all. I mean, we probably did spoil the Philippines for you, but it's like if you see this in the wild, you know, go ahead and pick that up. And you know, like I said, if you're here in the San Francisco area, you know, Green Apple, this is why I picked it up. I don't know if they have any more books in stock, but if you're ever in town, you know, give them a shout out. And yeah, so if you spot this in the wild, you know, or if you find it in a bin, whatever bin you find it in, give it a good home, and you know, dive into the history of comics and the countries that are tied in through comics, and you know, touch upon the history set by the Filipino creators, and the foundation that they paved, and to be on those shoulders now, and you know, to continue the history that they put out and the creations that they put out. Yeah, and you know, it's just. I mean, we're definitely gonna look at the word again as reference, as study material.
We have other books from other countries that have great artists that we would have probably connected to this.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, bringing up Tony Desaniga is like, from what he did for the American comic book industry and the history of the Filipino wave. You know, like to see that part of history of where it came. Seeing that part of history before that, it's pretty cool. It's really cool. And the timeline of comics.
Yeah, especially from 1800s to where we are today.
Yeah. We'll end this segment with a motivational quote for y'all and to go forward with. And this one is called "Make the Most of It," and it's by a philosopher, Paul Kurtz. And he states, "Every moment of each day counts. Our best recourse is to live life with intensity and exhilaration, in thought, experience, action, and deed."
Nice. So yeah, simple as that. Just make every day count and make the most of it.
Yeah, given whatever tools to make something, anything, you know, you got to make your environment your friend. Whatever material you have, you know, you can make the most of it. You know, you don't always have to have all the materials
or the best materials.
You know, just to make something awesome. You know, just seeing the back history of the art that the Philippines produced, and they were given less materials, but that didn't stop them from the creations that they made. You know, and to voice out the frustrations and the commentary of the things that they're going around them, to channel intense emotions into something creative, probably, maybe save them from something worse. You know, it's, you know, just having something to do with your head down and putting some negativity into a positive work, you know, where later it can be admired for something inspirational, right? And to pave the way, or to continue a paved way for other creators, and just to find that work.
Yeah.
So yeah, so till next time, y'all, and you know, stay good, be good, do good, and you know, keep creating and tell your story.
Yes, sir. Until next time. Peace.
Peace.